Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Monday, the 7th day of July, bringing you Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, unanimously denied former President Rodrigo Duterte's bid to remove 2 judges from the Crimes Against Humanity case against him. A ruling issued by all 18 judges stated that Duterte's legal arguments were incorrect, untenable, and a delaying tactic. Typhoon Bising, internationally known as Danas, has re-entered the Philippine area of responsibility and is now located over Taiwan. The weather condition in the Philippines will not be affected by the typhoon itself. Instead, rainfall in the zone will be caused by the southwest monsoon, also known as habagat. And the Philippine Navy confirmed yesterday it is in talks with Japan for the possible transfer of Abukuma-class destroyer ships. The naval assets are seen as aligned with the Philippines' maritime defense requirements and are intended to strengthen joint deterrence capabilities and military interoperability against China. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. President Bongbong Marcos says more public markets will soon offer the 20 pesos per kilo rice. Here is the report.
President Bongbong Marcos assures the public the 20 peso per kilo rice is here to stay. In his latest vlog, the president announced that affordable rice will soon be available in more public markets across the country. Currently, it is offered to vulnerable sectors, including senior citizens, solo parents, persons with disabilities, indigent families, and minimum wage earners.
Hindi lang po ito pop-up stall na mawawala naman pagkatapos na masimulan. 20 peso rice is here to stay. It is achievable, it is sustainable. Kaya abangan ninyo in your nearest public market.
This initiative was one of Marcos's key campaign promises, aimed at easing the impact of high food prices and strengthening local agriculture. Marcos also stressed the importance of collaboration between national and local governments to expand the program's reach. To support farmers, the National Food Authority continues to buy palay at prices of up to 23 pesos per kilo, regardless of retail rice prices.
Kahit ano pa ang maging presyo ng bigas, hindi po bababa dito ang pagbili ng NFA sa palay mula sa ating mga magsasaka.
According to the Department of Agriculture, the program has already distributed over 804,000 kilos of rice.
The center of Typhoon Bising, also known internationally as Danas, re-entered the Philippine area of responsibility on Sunday evening. That's according to Pag-asa. The State Weather Bureau said Bising has slightly weakened as it moves over the northwestern portion of Taiwan. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon is expected to bring heavy rains to Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, and Pangasinan. The public and local disaster officials are advised to take necessary precautions. Meanwhile, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council reported that more than 13,000 individuals have been affected by the combined effects of Typhoon Danas and the southwest monsoon. Of the total affected, 18 individuals are currently staying in evacuation centers, while over 3,000 others have received aid outside these sites. No casualties, injuries, or missing persons have been reported. However, 13 houses were damaged by heavy rains and strong winds. Flooding has also been reported in 27 areas across central Luzon. Meanwhile, Pag-asa said that 10 to 18 tropical cyclones may still enter or form within the Philippine area of responsibility before the end of 2025, although they are not expected to be as intense as those from last year.
Kasi last year is La Nina. Kapag La Nina kasi yung surrounding waters natin near the Philippines ay warmer yung kanyang sea surface temperature and fuel ito of course ng tropical cyclones.
The death toll from catastrophic floods in Texas has risen to at least 69, with children among the most affected. Here is the report.
The devastating floods in central Texas have now claimed at least 69 lives, including 21 children, as emergency crews continue searching for the missing. Kirk County, the epicenter of the flooding, recorded 59 deaths, according to Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Another 10 people died in surrounding areas, while 41 remain unaccounted for. One of the hardest hit locations was Camp Mystic, a nearly 100-year-old Christian girls' summer camp where 11 campers and 1 counselor are still missing.
It was nothing short of horrific to see what those young children went through. And we will remain 100% dedicated, searching for every single one of the children who were at Camp Mystic, as well as anybody else in the entire riverbed.
The flooding began Friday during U.S. Independence Day celebrations when torrential rains caused the Guadalupe River to overflow. The National Weather Service has extended flood warnings across Central as more rain is forecast, threatening to further complicate rescue operations.
There are dangers over the next 24 to 48 hours that could pose public safety threats to people in these regions. There is heavy rainfall that's already occurred, and there's more heavy rainfall that's expected that will lead to potential flash flooding.
In response, President Donald Trump has declared a major disaster. The Department of Homeland Security says FEMA is now actively coordinating with local first responders.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after a quick break. Welcome back. You're still with us here on Morning Matters on One News. All 18 judges of the ICC have unanimously rejected former President Rodrigo Duterte's bid to disqualify 2 judges from hearing his crimes against humanity case. In a 13-page ruling dated July 3, the ICC said Duterte's arguments were legally untenable, incorrect, and aimed at causing delay. Duterte wanted Judges Rain Alapini Gansu of Benin and Socorro Flores of Mexico removed due to their earlier rulings on jurisdiction. But the plenary of ICC judges found no evidence of bias and upheld that the judges acted within their duties. Let's discuss that and more with ICC Assistant to Counsel, Attorney Cristina Conti, who joins us today on Morning Matters. Magandang umaga sa'yo, Attorney. Thanks for being with us.
Morning, Gretchen.
Okay, tell us about this decision of the ICC. All 18 judges junked the plea of the Duterte camp and tagged it as wrong, untenable, and dilatory. Help us understand the decision.
So first, I'd like to kind of correct it to be more accurate. It's just 15 judges because 2 of the judges who were asked to recuse themselves did not vote, did not join the vote, as well as Betty Holler, who used to be with the Office of the Prosecutor. But essentially, they also favored the rejection of the defense's request. The request actually asks the judges, 2 of the judges, to mandatorily disqualify themselves in a sense, because the defense already lost the first request, which was for the 2 judges to voluntarily excuse themselves. The 2 judges said, well, no, because there is no indication of bias. Now, again, in this question for mandatory disqualification of the judges all in said that you cannot request this when there is no clear indication of bias or prejudice. And when you think of this would be probably statements outside of the proceedings, previously made publications, etc. But it is clear that the judges have not shown this kind of bias outside of the courtroom. The only quote-unquote bias that they seem to have made was during the same proceedings. Earlier, I think this was in 2021, they were asked to determine if the Philippines can proceed from preliminary examination to investigation. So in a sense, they were ruling, and the defense says this, on an earlier issue that also talks about jurisdiction. However, the judges said, no, it isn't exactly a ruling on jurisdiction. They just decided that there is enough basis to proceed with investigation. And although the issue of jurisdiction seems to be implied, it was not directly questioned. And so these judges, you cannot say that they have already prejudged the issue of jurisdiction.
So this time around, they will finally decide in certain terms on the jurisdiction of the ICC.
yes, because at that time, these points were not in question. In fact, they were talking about the withdrawal of the Philippines from the ICC, but because this was a collateral issue raised then, it was not squarely passed on. It was not the main issue, it was just a secondary issue. And while it was kind of mentioned in the decision, it was not the actual issue that was decided by the judges at that time.
If the Philippines rejoins the ICC at this point, because that idea is being floated around by the administration, do you think that will solve the jurisdictional issue, or is it still different because of the time that is being investigated?
The latter. So it will not solve the jurisdictional issue or question in the Duterte case because it talks about the time when the exercise of jurisdiction was exercised. When the exercise of jurisdiction was triggered. They're arguing that the investigation opened only in 2021 when we had left the court or withdrawn from the Rome Statute in 2019. Omitting that in 2018, the ICC had already opened a preliminary examination. So if we're talking of a generic investigation, the ICC has been looking into the case, into the Philippines since 2018. But if we're talking about the investigation as a proper stage, then well, we would admit that it only happened in 2021. But for us, if we rejoin the court, forward looking, it will only be prospective and will only probably in this case take in the concept of cooperation, not the exercise of jurisdiction. We will have jurisdiction at the time that we become a member of the court again, and therefore the court can pursue cases for crimes committed after we become a member.
So that would be 2025 onwards if we do decide
yes.
to join again.
2025 for crimes committed 2025 onwards. We've already lost the chance to prosecute whoever for crimes committed between 2022 until now.
Okay, but what would the incentive of the government be to take that route? If that can be just turned around again in the next administration, do you see us going that trajectory?
Well, could be, but it would appear would be one of the first countries to dilly-dally and to be wishy-washy about it. Member ba kayo o hindi ba? But anyhow, the minimum really is just to cooperate with the court. We've already started this investigation since 2018, and as admitted by the Department of Justice, it's the ICC which has gathered sufficient information about the incidents, and most particularly would have the capacity to process this information. To be frank, I kind of disagree with the Department of Justice that they've already lost the information, they don't have the evidence. It's there. It's all over these agencies. The Department of Justice, even the House of Representatives would have information. The PNP, they're just not cooperating. They're just not focusing. In fact, whatever information we may have given to the ICC must have come from these offices. It's just that we painstakingly collected and concentrated on particular issues or incidents. And so, the ICC has the capacity to process, to analyze this information, considering their experience in other cases as well. So maybe with the Department of Justice, with our investigation system, we're just not at that level where we can grasp the concept of crime against humanity. For the ICC, it's easy for them because they see the contextual elements, etc. The Department of Justice has a lot of training on this, I know. But it's entirely different if you're training on paper and doing it on the ground. So I would defer to the ICC really if it comes to an investigation on crimes against humanity, war crimes, and so forth.
We did ask about that. We had NAPOLCOM Vice Chairman Ralph Calinisan here. We also had General Torre here. And they say they're willing to cooperate. I mean, every time we ask them, sinasabi nila pumunta lang doon and kung anong kailangan, ibibigay nila. So you mean to say they haven't been cooperating?
Well, it could be because it's the Department of Justice that's in charge of the investigation. It's not their, technically, it's the PNP. But they've failed on this task ever since. To be technical about it, the prosecutor will just collect information from the police. The NAPOCOM comes in because you could refer administrative cases to it. So the thing is, what kind of information should we collect? Which cases should we talk about? So that kind of processing, it would come to the Department of Justice. And I think, to be frank, at one point, the PNP declined to give documents. During the time of the House of Representatives inquiry, the Quadcom, there was some sort of indication that the PNP will not be submitting this information to either the DOJ or to any investigative agencies. They did submit some, but not all.
Okay, what cards could they be holding close to their chest? I mean, anong impormasyon itong dinatago nila o ayaw nilang ibigay? At anong impormasyon ang meron sa ngayon na naisumite na sa ICC?
What information they might have, I don't know exactly and what exactly that they're holding, but for the ICC and for a case of crimes against humanity, it would be important, one, to submit police reports and to check if these police reports accurately reflect the incidents. What we do is ask for the victim's narrative or the point of view of witnesses and juxtapose those two narratives. Next, we check if there's any further investigation in the case. When we talk about the police report, probably, yung alam po siguro ng iba, yung spot report na, ito may namatay. But there are other types of police reports, such as progress reports, investigation reports, and so on. These reports would eventually unravel the full story. And another set of documents that could be important would be the SOCO report or the after investigation report, or something that will tell us what really happened during the incident. In most cases, these are missing, not done at all, or probably stuck in some office. So it's been hard for us as well to piece together the entire story. Kasi kailangan nung malaman, if you watch CSI movies, you have to be able to reconstruct the case, to reconstruct the crime scene. But it's been impossible with the documents that you have. For example, if you only have a spot report which says, somebody came up to this person, tried to buy drugs, and then this person sensed that this was a police officer, shot back, and then the police shot back at them. If that's the only information that you have, then you cannot reconstruct the crime scene. That would have been important for the ICC or for any investigation agency to determine if the narrative of Danlaban was
Pero
true.
mabubuo po kaya yun kung walang report mula sa SOCO? Because sabi nga ni Secretary Remulla, they have nothing, no DNA, no ballistics, no crime scene. And kayo na rin po nagsabi, wala yung police report. So at this point, it is mostly testimonial evidence that we have?
Well, for the cases that we have, we do have police reports. So I think they're grasping at straws. They're looking for a needle in a haystack. They need to focus on particular cases. I know that they've already looked at 52 cases. And there were conclusions about these 52 cases that police protocols were violated. They were also looking at additional 250 cases, so that should have been a total of 300 cases within the hands of the DOJ. But I don't know what has happened to these at least 300 cases. I think there's also an issue of identifying the cases. Kasi naalala ko yung 52 dati, wala doon kaso sa Quezon City. Isa o dalawang kaso lang sa Caloocan. So you have to be also methodical about it. And it comes from a recognition that these killings have happened almost everywhere and from a victim or in particular areas where the DDS were assigned. So from a victim point of view, you look at the places where the killings have happened. And if they were to do that instead of, because they gathered information from the police, and then the police submitted whatever they had. Ang sabi ng police, ito yung available namin. Hindi, dapat idikta mo, ang hinihingi naming impormasyon, yung galing sa Caloocan, yung galing sa kaso ni ganito, galing sa kaso ni ganito. So that, when you tie up all the stories, so each of these cases should have had key investigations. When you tie up all the stories, you come up with a conclusion. Did the police follow the investigation protocols? Did ito in particular, DDS personalities show up in how many of these cases? Did the quote-unquote narrative of nanlaban happen all over and was copied in 7,640 cases as reported by the police in police operations? They need to be critical about this, and I think at this point they may have been overwhelmed or just simply deferring to the ICC because they've already had a head start on this.
Okay, so with the 6,000 number, those are drug-related deaths that they submitted on the first year. Is that correct?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So now it's been updated to 7,640. We found that number during the Quadcom, as submitted by the DIDM, deaths in police operations. Yung 6,252 kasi, as of May 30 lang yon. So,
That are
tinapos
drug-related? That are drug-related?
Yes. Drug-related. And when asked, yung 6,252, at one point, this is the figure that they released for real numbers. If you remember, then Foreign Affairs Secretary, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano said, yes, they're all drug-related. They're all drug addicts. They're all drug suspects.
But last
There's
July
no
4...
information. Sorry. And then there's the problem. They just give us numbers, but no clear information or the underlying database behind it. So that's problematic.
Okay. Last July 4, the document containing charges was expected to be filed already by the prosecution. Have you seen it? And what acts do you expect to be included? Of course, murder would be there, but isn't it a bit of a stretch to include rape and torture into that list?
Well, we've been told that the redacted version or the public version is upcoming, so we're still waiting. Probably today or tomorrow, because that would be the first day of the week. It's not too far off to include the other charges, including rape and torture. For torture and imprisonment, I'm looking at the secret jail incident and hope that there would have been additional information submitted to the court as regards this incident. That's clearly a case of torture.
Okay. Super final question. With the interim release request, we've been hearing Australia, we've been hearing Belgium. What other countries are you seeing here that is possible to have agreed to host the former president?
Well, on the part of the victims, we would not like to speculate about the country. We're more focused on the conditions. Sino ba ang bansa na kayang ibigay yung hihingi namin? For example, ako palalayain siya. Kailangan nakikita yan lagi na court. Ihaharap kung kakailanganin. Walang ibang makakausap katulad ng nangyayari sa kanya. Baka mamaya kung sinong mautusan yan na ganito, ganyan ang gawin. But for the countries that have already surfaced as educated cases, there's Argentina, which has an agreement with the court as to conditions. There's other countries in Europe which has previously hosted persons that have been detained. They're talking about Africa, which has to step up. But in the end, well, these countries really have to be clearly cooperative with the court. Otherwise, we cannot enforce the conditions or we cannot ensure that the risk factors are addressed. But for us, hintayin na lang kaya ni Duterte yung September habang nasa loob ng detention facility. Total, 3 months na lang. O ilan na lang, July, o 3 buwan na lang.
Oo, payat na raw siya, no? Yun ang huling update sa kanya. Are you hearing anything on that?
Duterte. Well, we're concerned as well because we would want him alive for the trial. Kaya lang ang narinig ko din namin, payat na kasi hindi daw maka-adjust doon sa either 1, weather, or 2, pagkain. Yung weather ngayon, medyo mainit na. So kung before, malamig, ngayon mainit-init na. Itong hindi pagkain, he could very well ask for rice. And I think I heard one time that the detention facility can cook rice as well, kumbaga the Filipino way already. Kaya hindi ko alam kung kumbaga bakit pumapayat or anong kailangan gawin, pero we wish him all the best.
Well, we shall await for the confirmation of charges hearing this coming September. But before that, the jurisdictional issues and the interim release request to be settled. But for now, thank you so much. We have ICC Assistant to Counsel Attorney Cristina Conti giving us updates on the latest from The Hague.
Thank you, Gretchen. Ingat.
The Philippine Navy has confirmed it is in exploratory talks with Japan for the possible acquisition of decommissioned Abukuma-class destroyer ships. Naval spokesperson Captain John Percy Alcos said a team of Philippine naval experts will soon conduct a joint inspection of the warships. Japanese media earlier reported that the two countries had agreed on the transfer of 6 destroyer escorts. Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro and Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara reportedly confirmed the plan during a meeting in Singapore last month. Stay tuned. The Morning Matters will be back right after a short break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and you're watching Morning Matters. From their booth, now to our studio. Joining us here today are voice artists Inka Magnaye, Bettina Magnaye, Jerry Magnaye, and Neneng Magnaye Arceo. Welcome to Morning Matters. Wow.
Thanks for having us.
That video gave me all the feels and goosebumps.
I'm glad.
I felt like I was transported back to my childhood. Seriously.
Cool.
Totoo talaga, as in, tumas talaga balahibo ko. Now, I mean, I'd like to transfer that feeling to our audience now. So could you introduce yourselves again? I feel like you're going to do a better job than I did.
Oh, sure,
In your voiceover talent, could you introduce yourselves?
I'll start it and then I'm panicking.
Parang camera shy kayo, no?
Remember, we're all voice talents behind the scenes.
Yes.
Hindi sila sanay. Ako lang yung sanay ngayon. And that's after 5 years pa. So, good morning, Morning Matters. My name is Inka Magnaye. Ganon ba?
I could sleep na. Joke. How about you? Ninang Neneng.
Yes. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat and welcome to Morning Matters.
Hello.
Daddy.
Hello. My name is Jerry Magnaye. I am the father.
Wow.
And yes, radio guy, former. Now I'm doing this full time.
Galing. I mean, para siya yung cartoon character na no? Yung parang sumusulpot-sulpot. Small one, right?
That's
With all the
actually me.
expressions. I love it. B?
Hi, I'm Bettina Magnaye. I'm an early learning teacher and I also do voiceover work.
Yes.
And yeah, hi, welcome to Morning Matters.
Yay! And here we have a family of voiceover talents. As Inka has mentioned, she comes from generational talent. Your mom is not here,
Yeah, she's
but
busy.
she's also a voiceover talent.
Yes, she is.
She was the airline talent before you.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So who was the pioneer? I mean, the very first one in the
well-
Magnaye family.
Yeah, who was the first one? I guess you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Pops is the elder sibling between Pops and my Nina. So I guess it's you.
Oh, yeah.
How did you discover this line of work? I mean, what year?
How much time do we have?
We have enough time to tell your story.
I was originally a visual artist. I still am at heart. Came from UP College of Fine Arts.
Fine Arts.
So I am my major is painting. And then I fell in love with sound because I landed a job in radio just because I like the idea of talking over an intro, I love music, I love bands, I love information. So I landed a job in radio. And then they asked me, I learned production. And then back in high school, I was always the guy who would come up with funny voices that teachers would say, who said that? So I started making use of it and earning from it. And I landed my first commercial back in 83, 82, 81. Yeah.
And since
As a
then, you've been doing it.
voiceover. Yes, and then I fancied editing. So I learned by watching people edit.
And did you fall in love with Inka's mom through her voice as well?
yes,
Love at
we
first
we worked together in the morning show.
sound.
Yes.
Ah.
She was my newscaster. Back then, we were told not to touch the news, but I would somehow find a way to make her laugh while doing the news. And then it started some sort of a relationship. And
the family.
And the family.
And Ninang is the sister of Jerry.
Younger
Yeah.
sister.
How did you? I mean, did you just know that you had a good voice when you were born?
No, whenever he would produce back then in merch plugs in the
Yes.
radio station, he would pull me in and say, "Can you do a line for me? Can you just say thank you? Can
Extra,
you laugh
extra,
for me?"
ganon.
Exactly,
Oo.
extra.
It was always a pleasure listening to people come right back at me when I give them an example on how to read a line. They would parrot in the beginning, but they're very good. So they come back with not just a parroted voice, but one with a heart. So, and then I said, hey, that one works. So let's try some more. So from short liners to long 15-seconders to 30-seconders
To an AVP.
to an AVP.
Oh, mahirap mag-voice, ah.
My dad's not just a voice artist. He's also a really talented director and producer, audio producer as well.
Like putting the spiels together, you mean?
Like
And editing it and creating a story
crafting
around
the
it.
sound. He's actually multi-awarded. He's not going to tell you that. He's
Oh, wow.
yeah, he's too humble.
Yeah.
Even the ambient sounds. That's what
Everything.
That's sound
Yeah,
designing.
everything.
That's his forte.
Yeah.
within the booth.
Yeah.
Tell us about this podcast production, because we do know you as voiceover talents, but now you're venturing on over to creating shows and also for other talents, I presume.
Yes.
So what is From Our Booth about?
Would you like to take this? Okay, I'll take it. So From Our Booth is actually a family dream that Ninang brought up to us years ago. It's been her vision for all of us to kind of put our talents together, because when are you ever going to come across an entire family
I know.
of voiceovers? So she was like, why don't we do something? Why don't we put our talent to good use and bring something good into the world? And for a while, it didn't pan out until, but you know, things happen when they're supposed to happen,
Life.
right? Yeah.
Life happened.
And how did
happens.
this fall into this time and space? I mean, how did you find the right timing to finally put this up?
One day, I think Ninang was just like, you know what, I think we can do it already. And then we said, okay, let's go.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
So Rhymes and Tales, are you acting out specific
Roles.
famous cartoon characters, or are these characters made up by your family?
Oh, no. We just, what initially started with are public domain stories of nursery rhymes. And we picked a few that are quite
Safe.
popular
And
and
safe.
safe to reproduce or adapt.
Copyright wise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Kailangan public domain para walang sabi.
Ah. Oh, so what stories can we find there?
So we have
Yeah.
an adaptation from Jack and Jill.
Just the first episode.
Yeah. And then the Three Little Pigs.
Three Little Pigs.
The Hare and the Tortoise.
Yes.
The wolf.
The boy who cried wolf.
Cried wolf. Yeah.
Then
So
we have
these
Goldilocks.
classic stories.
What was that
all
one
know
that
and
we
love.
watched a while ago?
That was
That you
Jack and
posted?
Jill.
That was
Ah, that was
Jack and
Jack and
Jill. That was the very
Yes.
first one.
Yes.
That's the pirate.
So what we do with this one is we take all these stories that we know and love, that we grew up with, we add a little bit more dialogue, so it's just a bit more immersive. Because what we want out of the podcast is for children to use their imaginations. We want to take them out of the motion
doom
of just like
scrolling
yeah,
we've
just
all-
scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, or just
Watching video
Yeah.
mindlessly.
Exactly.
Because the
And-
attention span suffers.
Yeah.
So we want to give them more, you know.
more
And
to
it's
work
amazing.
with.
I asked about cartoon characters because it did put me there. I felt like I was in a Disney film of some sorts, just listening to
I'm
you guys,
glad.
right? But how do you choose the roles? I mean, how do you assign roles? How do you learn the voicing? Do you, try to imagine who would Jack and Jill be?
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you have shifts in voicing out these characters when you go from one fairy tale to another?
It always starts with a script because what we did with the scripts, you remember how simple it was? Jack and Jill, for example. It was very simple.
It's a very
So
short
that-
rhyme.
It's a very short rhyme so kids can understand. So what we did is we added, like what Inka said, a little bit more of dialogue with more movement so you can hear.
Sound movement.
Yeah, sound movement.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water.
It was just that, right?
And what did you add to that? I mean, just
We added dialogues between
Yeah.
Jack and Jill. So
Yeah.
it's not
Made
just
it
one
come to
person.
We decided to come up with a
whole
complete
story.
simple
Whole
story.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pops added like sound effects. It really sounds
Could,
like
could
they're
we hear
going
that?
up a
Could we
hill.
hear that a bit? I mean, could you talk in that way?
It's difficult to do that like live, simply because a big element of the podcast itself is sound design. So you need to listen to it like left and right ear with your earphones or speakers. Because Pops really puts you, and this is Pops, he puts you in a very immersive bubble. Like when you're sitting there, it sounds like Jack and Jill is going up the hill. You can't see it, but you see it in your mind's eye.
Right.
like
Which
the
is
sound of steps, sound of the water,
the sound
you
of
should hear them
grass,
falling.
Yeah,
the
the
sound of
falling.
falling, the sound of them doing this to their clothes.
It's as if you're with them falling.
Yeah.
Kaya mahirap siya, ano,
Yes.
live.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. It really is a production.
In the creation process, I had to work closely with the sound editor, and I would describe to him. I said, I would like him while he's running to have some branches whipping his face.
And how do you produce that? Do you record it with the branch and
Sometimes we have to do that. Yeah, we Foley.
okay.
And
Sometimes I would
sometimes
have
we
to-
look for several effects from the library and then
Yes.
combine things together that will sound just like that.
So it's a combination of live sound effects and filed sound effect files. And then stereo and equalization,
Yeah.
depth, and moving away from the mic, closer to the mic.
Yes.
So
It's all there.
it's all an art, and I love it. I mean, but speaking of trying to fit yourself in different roles, how do you prepare for a performance? Do you imagine yourself as the characters? Is it the same process as a normal actor and actress would go through?
Sometimes we would do that. It's like, oh, you have to sound like you're falling. So even our facial expression is there.
Yeah, our bodies.
We really
Can't see
act it out.
Yeah.
So pagod kayo pagkatapos?
Oh yeah.
naman?
Yes.
It's very draining actually.
Bettina's,
She's
what's
Jill.
your experience be?
Yeah, it's actually, I have an easier time because since I'm an early learning teacher, I did a lot of story time with my students, so I have experience in that acting out stories and telling stories.
Can voice be trained? I mean, if you have a naturally deep voice, I do have a deep voice. Could I make it go higher? Or if you have a high-pitched voice, could you make it go lower?
yes, there are certain exercises you can do to expand your vocal prowess capability, and then of course the secret ingredient is your heart. and your imagination. Because if you have those three, then you can be whoever you want to be.
Can you try to voice in a high, mid, and low?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by high? Like high?
You
Or-
can make it go high like
Yeah,
that.
it's a
right?
matter of placement. It's actually it actually depends on the situation the character is in.
Yeah.
It depends on how much sleep you have.
It's true.
Because-
That is true.
That's true.
Yes.
I know.
It's
As a broadcaster, I do go through
Voice.
problems with my
Exactly.
throat too.
Right.
So, but how do you take care of yours? I mean, and make sure that it stays intact.
Coffee.
Ginger tea.
Yes.
Warm tea.
Ginger tea, warm
Yeah.
ginger
Warm
tea.
tea for me.
Salabat.
Yeah.
But
Sleep, salabat,
Yeah,
and,
sleep.
and easy caffeine consumption.
don't listen to him. Just kidding.
So maybe that
sorry.
one is effective. But did you intentionally train your daughters? I mean, to grow up as voice talents? Because Inka, I saw, started very
That's
young, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't intentional, except that I found out that even as a baby, remember on a bean bag?
Yeah.
Oh yes, well you don't remember, but on a bean bag, we would keep her on a bean bag because we simply didn't have any extra house help to watch the baby, and of course we'd like to bring her in our little studio, and I would always put a microphone right beside her and record her laughter,
baby.
her sounds.
So you have all that saved.
Oh, it went somewhere else.
Went on vacation.
No, it was something happened to one of the
Recorded.
Tapes?
Yeah.
Ano ba yun? VHS?
That was like 1989.
Yeah.
Cassette audio recording.
Yeah. Oh, open reels, yung mga ganon.
yeah.
And then I found out that she can laugh with intention, with feeling, and then if I give her a line, so I would use her. I would utilize her voice if I needed a baby, and then as a teenager.
Dapat may bayad ka yata, no?
I should edit pala my bio. No, I didn't start when I was 5. I started when I was
Younger,
a baby.
when you were a baby.
And then parroting is a wonderful tool, and all it needed was heart. And then I
good
realized
ear.
that she also had heart, and so did she, and even my sister. So
And Renzo.
and
Brother.
Renzo, yeah. And so parroting is just half the task,
Yeah.
heart and mind.
And it's like
imagination.
that when we do our recordings. Like, because,
Yes.
again, I mentioned that my dad is a really good director. And he has this ability to kind of bring out that heart from people. So, like, on our recording days, we'd each choose, right? Nina would print out the script. She'd give us copies, and then she'd go, okay, which role do you guys want to do? Brother's like, oh, I can do this guy. And then V's like, oh, I can do this girl. And then we're like, okay, sige.
Or boy.
Or boy, yeah.
Or
we do
boy,
a little boy voice as well. And then I'm like, okay, I'll do the narrator. And then Pops is like, is there any way you can do the narrator differently this time so it doesn't sound like the last episode? And I went, once upon a time, there was a little boy. And then my dad's like,
I said,
yes,
yes, Mrs. Potts.
do that. Wow. So that's the voice that I did for Three Little Pigs
Yes.
in one of the episodes.
We would usually spend close to an hour before the recording starts.
Pre-prods.
Just figuring out, trying out voices.
Yeah.
And having fun with it.
Yes, that's the most important part, is to have
Experimenting.
fun. Yeah.
And to practice the spontaneity, I guess,
Especially
with
the
voicing
exchange.
and the
Yes.
banter and all of that, and the rapport.
Yes.
We even nitpick crowd recordings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
The background noises of crowds in,
Naririnig nyo?
in the podcast.
That's us.
No, that's
Kami rin
us.
yun.
Ah, kayo rin yun.
Yeah.
Ang
That's
galing.
us.
Yeah, so the villagers, that's
Yeah,
all
kami
of
rin
us. We take on different
Parang
background
you're
roles.
in a play, but this is all sound, right?
Yes.
It feels like what you're doing is a rebellion. I mean, against video.
Hindi naman.
Yeah.
Hindi naman.
Hindi naman.
She says yes. And the second,
Slight lang.
yes, because I mentioned this because we are headed for quite the transformation with artificial intelligence, when even voice could be generated online. I mean, are you kind of worried about that? Because I've seen many videos that have recreated voices from famous personalities.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or have even, just AI bots on YouTube using some person's
Random
voice, some
voice.
created voice.
Right.
Are
It's
you
actually
worried about that?
It's actually a long-running discussion. It's still going on right now amongst voice talents. And the best way to not go against it, the best, not even fight it, but the best way to swim with it is to learn it. Learn AI, because there are a lot of benefits in knowing how to use AI, and it's just a matter of guarding yourself against the, what do you call that, unscrupulous. Unscrupulous.
Have you used it in your production?
For voice?
For voice, no.
Not yet.
No.
What do you think would be the main difference? I mean, kasi kung wari ikaw, you're an agency and you would do a commercial, if you could generate it for free, right?
You can, but
There's no heart.
There's no heart. That's what Pops was talking about
There's no
earlier.
heart.
It's like
Monotone.
anyone can do, not even, like you can put whatever code if you want your AI to like sound like this, and then you can bring the voice down a little bit.
You've tried it.
I mean, I can sound like it, but like the thing that AI lacks is heart and spontaneity. You can't.
Spontaneity, yes.
You can't
That's
have
the one.
AI mimic actual human emotions on the spot.
Right.
It's impossible.
Including ad-libs, nuances.
Yeah.
Although they have successfully produced conversations, dialogues, discussions on air, there are a few Spotify shows between two
AI.
voices
Yeah.
discussing things. But after a while, it sounds like, you will notice it will start to sound like a wallpaper.
Right. It's monotonous.
Because
Well, I do listen to some motivational speakers on YouTube, and parang they have their video where the human person is actually there talking, so you know that's the original one. But meron mga iba na parang there's just a photo and there's their voice,
Yeah.
and you kind of notice that it's the same modulation, like
Yeah.
parang yung ganun lang
No
siya.
inflections.
There's a similar
No
cadence.
intonations.
Yeah, but I fear that AI will keep getting better.
oh yeah,
Oo naman.
Right?
For sure.
yes.
It will. But it can never. It can try to replicate human emotion and heart and spontaneity, but it'll never get there, I think.
But maybe this is the way that we counter that. I mean, acting out as a group,
And we
Putting
encourage
emotion.
listeners, yes.
Yeah. But
having that conversation, those ad libs within the script.
and the thing is, if you depend on AI entirely for all of that, you're going to miss all these moments when we're printing out scripts together, figuring out who's going to do which character, discovering that we could do this voice pala, my dad directing us, pretending to be a pig in the booth. AI won't give you those moments. It won't give you
The
the art,
bonding
the
moments.
bonding. So you can use AI if you want. It can be effective for what you need done, but the energy around creating something with fellow humans, it's not.
It's different.
It's different.
And that humans could relate to.
Yes.
A shared common experience. Maybe you should record your behind the scenes, no, as you do it. It would be interesting to watch.
We
you
have
guys.
been. Snippets of it.
we should record more.
What other genres can we expect from our booth?
Well, we're planning. It's in the pipeline. Alamats.
Alamat.
Filipino stories.
Alamat.
Yeah, Filipino
Tagalog.
stories. Yeah.
Oh, yun,
Alamat.
mahirapan yung A. Ay, joke.
And then
mahirapan.
some
Joke lang.
religious stories, maybe we can do that. And maybe songs,
Oh, okay.
maybe.
Are you
I don't
all
know.
singers as well?
We like to sing.
Does it
We love
does it
to sing.
follow?
We like to sing.
Or could you be bad at singing but good at voice acting?
Definitely.
Could be.
Pwede naman.
and the other way around. And the other way around.
Okay, so a lot more to expect from our booth. I think you deserve a congratulations because
you.
you're not
Thank
just expressing yourself, but you're pushing forward an art that should be appreciated more. And I think it comes at a time where Filipinos appreciate and listen to podcasts even more.
Yeah.
But tell our audiences, what's the beauty of sound? I mean, what's the difference of listening to a podcast as opposed to watching a video?
Okay, so that means me. Because one's imagination is limitless. So for as long as you have not completely let go of the child in you, then you can imagine. And it's going to be bigger, better, more colorful, wilder, darker if you want, than anything you can see on television. Plus, it doesn't cost much to produce as opposed to visuals, right? Because you have to spend tons of money to create what you imagine. But you only need your brain, your heart, and your ears. They have to be working.
Your inner child is important.
Does it improve attention span? I wonder.
I guess.
Slowly, I guess.
Actually, that's one of our
Yeah.
goals. It's actually to reintroduce to adults like us and introduce to
Young
the young
kids.
ones
Yeah, maybe-
the appreciation of
How
listening.
early can kids start listening to your podcast?
In the womb.
Yeah.
Talaga?
Yeah. naman.
As early as
A
that.
lot of my students listen to the podcast already.
Yeah.
So mothers should not be afraid. Di ba usually naalagaan yun eh kung ano yung
for sure.
media
Right,
consumption.
It's rated G.
Yeah.
Okay,
Although some of
Just
them-
as a final question, what genre would you like to do as a family that you haven't done yet?
I want to do horror.
Folklore, Philippine folklore.
Yeah, folklore.
Philippine
That's
folklore.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mga tikbalang.
Yeah, things like that.
Okay, how often can we expect a new upload on your Spotify channel?
It's usually weekly.
Every week.
Yes.
Every week.
Every Friday.
Once a week.
Starting.
We're already on episode 4 from the first season. First season's going to have 8 episodes, and the next season will come right after that.
Wow, exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today. And
Thank you for having us.
congratulations
Thank you.
on inspiring us with your voices.
Thank you.
And your life stories. We do hope more would tune in to you guys. And this creates a movement.
Hopefully.
Of course, we have Inka, we have Neneng, Jerry, and B, the Magnayas and the Arceos, the voices behind the Rhymes and Tales podcast. They're not just voices now, but also faces, despite how camera shy they are. Thank you for being with us here on Morning Matters.
Thank you for
Listen
having us.
to Rhymes and Tales podcast on Spotify. Na-pressure ako. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. That wraps up today's show. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Hong. We are One News, all sides, all the time.